Cowabunga! Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we're taking a look at the Playmates Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Retro Collection, Splinter and Shredder. These are re-releases of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures. If I remember correctly, this line started about 2 years ago, so it'd be about 2012, starting to re-release vintage figures, mostly at Toys R Us. And I figured since I covered the original Turtles, I might as well cover the Master of Good and the Master of Evil from the original Turtles line. Now, just like the Turtles, they both come with their weapon rack. This one belongs to Shredder. Seeing as I have not posed him with any weapons in his hands, he does have a sword, so if you want Shredder with a sword, you could have that, but all the same things, the throwing stars, the little triangle blade, the hook, and the little pizza-shaped blade. Of course, this could stand up and you could peg weapons into it, I guess, but never really worked for me. And starting off with Splinter, we actually get 2 accessories with him, which is pretty cool. Splinter has his cane, but you could actually slide this apart and reveal a sword or a knife within the cane. So the ancient ninja master is still hiding some secret weapons on him, which I think is kind of a cool touch, a cool character trait there. On the outside, it does have a decent wood grain to it. No real paint detail, of course, but it looks alright. He also comes with his bow and arrow, which is also pretty decently detailed. There's some wood grain on it. You can see the feathers on the arrow, but it's all just one color and nothing too crazy looking. He can kind of hold it on this part here, and it works decently for him. Now, both Splinter and Shredder are a mix of the plastic figure with some soft goods, which is kind of an interesting mix. So here we could see Splinter's head sculpt, which I always thought was really creepy in the toy. He's got the black nose that kind of fades to gray, then goes into the brown. He's got the all white eyes. He's got like a little scar on his cheek and the white buck teeth, because he is a rat, of course. Now coming down, we have this purpley pinky cloak around him, just held on by his belt, which is similar to a turtle's belt, but no insignia, no weapon storage on it. But if we unpeg this, pop the belt right off, and you can see immediately this garment gets a lot looser on him. You can take that all the way off him, and we now have a naked mutant rat. So we see some more gray on his chest fur here. A lot of great fur detailing throughout. He's got his tail with kind of a wrap around the end of it. Also wraps around his ankles here. Been some giant rat feet going on. He's got his arms, a lot more fur detail. Not too bad for being a pretty old figure. He's got a lot of sculpted detail and some good paint variation, even if it is only like 4 colors, but not bad looking at all. For articulation, he has a swivel at his neck, swivel at the shoulders, rotate at the forearm, a swivel at the leg, unlike the Turtles who have the ball joint, and then a swivel at the tail. Moving on to Shredder, as I already mentioned, I don't pose him with any weapons because he's a walking can opener anyway. I always thought the toy version of Shredder was really odd, because in the cartoon, in the comic, he's all armored up, and this is a very minimalistic costume for Shredder. We of course have his helmet, which is kind of a cool blue, very samurai helmet looking. It's got the fins coming back here. Then if you look at the face, they did some good detail on his eyebrows. His pupils are there, but no whites on his eyes. And then the mask here, which in the cartoon is metal, this just looks like a cloth face mask over him. So a little different in overall design. Then we come down, we've got his purple cloak on, and it leaves his chest exposed, which is kind of weird. We've got the claws, the spikes on his shoulders on either side. Got him also on his wrist. I always loved the way the spikes looked. Some purple wrappings around it, kind of holding it onto his hands. His arms are in weird poses because they're pretty much useless. He's got the one kind of tucked in back here, and his hand almost looks like he's holding a bow for like a musical instrument. Just a very odd hand gesture. And then this one's a more open hand and an arm that's extended out. So there really isn't a whole lot of cool poses you could put the Shredder in. Got, of course, his belt holding on the cloak, so we could unpeg that belt. Same kind of belt Splinter has. We could take that cloak off, or just have it more as a free-flowing cape behind him. And actually, this isn't really one to come off over the head. I'm sure I could kind of stretch it, but I'm not going to mess with it for this review. I don't want to mess it up too badly. But we can see we have a very emaciated-looking Shredder. You can see his spine back there, and then all of his muscles on his torso. But he looks very, very skinny, which is kind of an odd choice. He's got his purple diaper going on here, black leggings, and then his foot wraps in purple with more spikes on his shins. Once again, his legs are in a very weird pose. We have just a big bend in this one leg with a flat foot, and then a more extended foot with a very turned ankle. So he kind of has to always be in this really odd dynamic pose. Shredder has a decent range of articulation. He has a swivel at the neck. We have swivels at the shoulders. He'll rotate at the forearm, so a little bit on that back one and more on the front. You can kind of see. Just really can't can't do anything with that articulation. And then ball joints at the legs, which is pretty much useless because he has to be in that weird stance because of the way his feet are shaped. So overall, I'm very happy I picked up these reissues because I kind of mentioned with the Turtles, I could probably go and dig these out of my parents' storage facility where I probably still have them in a tub somewhere and have my old Turtles back. They're probably horribly scuffed and maybe even melted by this point because they've been sitting in unair-conditioned storage in Texas and Florida for about a decade and a half now. But with these guys, I know I probably still have my vintage versions of them with those Turtles if they all still exist, but I'm gonna guess the cloaks and the belts, or one or the other, probably missing from both. I remember my Shredder almost always being shirtless, and I think I probably lost the cloak. I think he still had his belt on, or on his little emaciated waist. And Splinter, I do remember Splinter being like this, but I know I probably took the cloak off of him more often than not because it got in the way of me messing with the figure, and it got dirty, and things like that. So, as a collector, especially these with soft goods, I think it's very nice to be able to have them as new figures again. And these things look so much like their vintage counterparts. I'm sure there are some slight detail changes. I know people will probably nitpick them to death over what's a little different, but to me, they're satisfactory representations of those original figures. So they're gonna get a recommendation from me. Once again, hard not to with a line that I have so much nostalgia over. So it is a little hard to give these a fair shake, but I really like them. I'm glad I picked these up. I actually saw recently that they're putting out Krang and a Foot Soldier in this line. I can't wait to grab them. I do hope they'll do a Bebop and a Rocksteady as well. Make sure you check me out on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also check me out on Facebook, link below. And until next time, this has been another Outside the Box Reviews. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go!